You. Got a video for y'all today. I'm gonna go get myself situated here so I can drop a little thought piece on you real quick. I was trying to figure out why the left and the right, Democrats, Republicans, this, that, and the third, have such different viewpoints. I think I figured it out. For you to be left-leaning, I'll just start with the left. Don't matter where I start, I'll start with the left. For you to be left-leaning, you gotta have a mentality of trust. Dang, Wi-Fi signal. All right, let's try this again. What I was trying to say was that if you are thinking of collectivism, which is a liberal or left-leaning principle, if you're thinking of collectivizing or socializing or whatever as your answer, if you believe in that as an end goal, that takes an element of trust, because you believe that the others around you, who are your brothers, your communities, your comrades, your government leaders, whomever, that they will have your best interest in mind. On the other hand, the more conservative or libertarian or whatever you want to call it, skeptic, what was the word I used? Shoot, hold on a second. I don't think I can see it. That's unfortunate. Naive versus, I don't think I used the word skeptical in the title of the video, but basically, if you believe that others can lead you, you're naive. If you believe that you need to be empowered as an individual and individual rights should triumph the collective rights, then you're more of a either skeptic or a I don't know what I used for the word, but the opposite of naive. So almost paranoid. You know what I mean? Like, if you think your brother might try to trick you or take from you, you want a free market system or a libertarian system where we're all protected by individual rights. So you can have property, I can have property. You can have a bank account, I can have a bank account. A collectivist person, I said naive, but there's another element beyond naivety, because naivety just means you're easily tricked. I think the person that's open to collectivizing is also coming from the expectation that it's like both sides believe in a conspiracy, but the collectivizing side believes that there's enough resources to go around, and that the capitalists or the opportunists are monopolizing the output or monopolizing the profit or the gain on the productive capacity of mankind's labor, whereas the capitalist or industrialist or whatever believes that basically profit and numbers and math and money is just like inches and feet and meters. It's just the measurement to determine how big or how small something is. So profit is a measurement of how much excess value a given enterprise can create over a given period of time. If I sell X units of a product and create Y percentage profit, that Y is a representation of the percentage at which there's excess value created. So if I make a 20% profit, that means 20% of the value of that product that the customer pays, let's say it's a $10 product, $2 of that 20% profit, that's the difference. That's the amount that was extra. Collectivists will say, we need to take the profits out of the system and redistribute that to everyone. The problem is, profit is based on an incentive that the individual has to better their own position. So you take that away, now the individual is trying to achieve profit for their brother, for the system, or for comrades. It's a different mental state. You need to have a higher level of empathy to value your brother's gain as much as you value your own gain. It's not real. I'm not saying it's unrealistic, but I think you need to first transcend I guess capitalism needs to be transcended. I would admit that. In some sense, it needs to be transcended. But to force that process, I think what that would look like for capitalism to be transcended is that industrialists would put a portion of their profit off. So instead of I'm trying to think of an example, but like instead of charging for soda at McDonald's, maybe like an example this would be is like a capitalist would say, you know, if you check in at McDonald's 4 times a month in the app or whatever, we stop charging you for soda after your 4th meal, because soda is basically killing you. So it's like, if you're going to drink it, we're not going to make a profit off of that. Like, there's ways for a capitalist institution to become more empathetic or more compassionate, but you start with a framework of compassion, and then all it takes is manipulative people in groups to rise to the top of this power structure, and then they can still hide under the falsehood of compassion or empathy. And I think that's where the liberal, the traditional, the current day liberal, the current day Democrat, believing in free healthcare, free college, all this stuff, without doing the math or studying economics and understanding that, well, if we forgive $50,000 in student loan debt right now, like whatever Joe Biden's talking about, that means that kids that are going to school now and taking out student loans will have an expectation that somewhere down the line, maybe their loans will be forgiven. So we're creating a separate market where the money isn't the same as the money in like buying a car or buying a house, where it's like if you buy a college education, you have this kind of subtle expectation that someone's going to pay it off for you later. So it either is or it isn't. So it's like free healthcare. It's like, well, I'm going to go get a liver transplant because I think maybe it's going to be paid off later, or I'm going to go get it because I know I can afford it, or I'm going to go get it because it's free. Those are different scenarios. So the liberal doesn't want to dig, they don't want to know, they don't want to answer. They just want to believe, which I think is great. I think the conservatives are all about believing. Like, supposedly they're like the Christians or God-fearing people. But the liberals are the ones that have more faith. Like, they're going to trust these politicians, whether it's Obama or Clinton or Biden or whomever, that have really shady checkered pasts, just because the things they're saying are aligned with the moral values of the voters. Like, just because someone like Biden or Bernie Sanders or Obama, whoever says, oh yeah, we need to make things equal or whatever, but they're still initiating foreign wars. They're still bombing and drone striking people in other countries. They're still, taking donations from bankers and making backroom deals and things like that. So I think the conservative, and especially the more extreme version of that, the libertarian, realizes that government will never be the answer, because if you create a structure where it's based on trust rather than merit, so okay, we have this thing that wherever if you're ever called the president, if you're ever called the governor, if you're ever called the mayor, we have a level of trust for that position, so that way if you sit there, whether your name is John, Jane, Susan, whoever you are, if you sit in that seat that's called mayor or called president, we're supposed to give you a certain amount of trust. That means you can do whatever you want. We're going to all follow it. I don't think anyone really ascribes to that anymore. I think we all have enough independent thought to realize my neighbor sees things so differently than me, so why would I want someone who has a vastly different worldview than me to ever be able to lead me? But yet we cling on to democracy and voting and stuff because that's all we got, that's all we know. But we're really past it. We need to realize, like, more libertarian, more voluntarist, free market. Let your neighbor do what your neighbor wants to do. If they start tying up kids in their basement or stealing or whatever, then the community needs to get involved. Whether we have decentralized policing, decentralized courts, or whether we have a centralized government. The government should have as little power as possible. They shouldn't even be creating currency. They shouldn't have anything to do with marriage. They shouldn't have anything to do with what kind of bathrooms we can go into. They shouldn't tell us to put a mask on. They shouldn't tell us we can or can't go to work. Government has gotten too much power, and if you're smart, and if you're thinking right now, you realize what's happening is you guys are being divided up into two camps, and if you have a red shirt on or a blue shirt on, like basically the Bloods and the Crips, they can tell you, okay, red shirts, go out in the streets and protest. Okay, blue shirts, go tweet this, hashtag whatever, and you're all going to do it. So I'm coming to you as someone who's in the middle or outside of the entire equation and say that you need to pay attention to this stuff that's happening right now because it's important and it's not going away unless you make it go away. And when you make it go away is that you actually say, I see what's going on here and I'm not playing your game anymore. So I'm not on the left, I'm on the right, and I'm not going to vote until you make the system straight or you just shut up and go home and let us run our own lives. Because there needs to be 16, I would say, I think the number I said before was like 8. If you have a minimum of 8 presidential candidates on the ballot, we're not looking for a majority. But then again, if only 12% of the population can vote in a president, then that president should only have enough power to change things 12%. You You shouldn't be able to make 100 or 200 or 300% change from A to B, whether it's socialism to capitalism or whatever, back and forth, if only 12% of the people voted you in. So anyway, we're past democracy. We're at each other's throats. And I don't care if you believe in Jesus or this, that, or the third. You need to find a way to see your neighbor as your ally and not your enemy. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm reaching out. I know that 14 people watch this and 2 people will actually watch it through and whatever. For you 2 people, for you 14 people, whatever. Just saying. This is my little thing. I'm sure you have little things that you do, but I believe that liberals and Democrats are way too naive. They believe whatever the TV says. They believe the narrative or whatever the Democratic Party says. There's so much shady corruption that they won't look at and won't even talk about. And they just want to point the finger at the Republicans and Donald Trump and make Orange Man bad, be the whole fucking narrative. And the Republicans do an inverse of that. And say, oh, these liberal, beta, soy boy, cucks, blah, 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 blah. And it's all about exposing the flawed narrative of the left, like the critical race theory and all this stuff, which is right to point at. But if you attack the actual intentions of the left rather than their dirty secrets, and you say, look, the liberals and the Democrats are naive. They believe that if we all become socialist and try to have the same outcomes, that'll create utopia. Even if we achieve that, that's not utopia. Us all driving the same car, having the same size house, having the same type of clothing is not utopia. That's a horror show. If we're all exactly the same clones of each other in cookie cutter houses and cookie cutter cars and cookie cutter clothing with the same education, the same beliefs, that's not freedom. That's not good. That's hell. We want diversity. And if that means there's a war, if that means there's famine, or if that means there's a pandemic and some people want to go out to work anyway, that's what freedom looks like. People controlling you and saying we're right and you have to listen, that's never going to work. Even if you're right, even if the lockdown or even if this or if that is actually the correct answer, you're not going to get people on your side, because if you start out by saying, I know what's up and you're a dummy, so listen to me and I'm going to tell you what to do, people are going to do the opposite just to defy you. So I know we're wasting time with this shit, but my way of changing it is speaking truth to power. So that's the truth. It's at your face. If you love it, you love it. Great. If you don't, you don't. Holler at me. Peace.